Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Domesticated Dude podcast. I'm Logan, your host on this journey. Today, I'm catching up with my friend Gerald. Gerald and I went to high school together back home in Alaska, and after he graduated from high school, he went to college in Montana and eventually found a job in San Francisco at one of the largest hotels west of the Mississippi. He came in fresh out of college into this job, and he was having to lead people who had been there since the hotel opened probably 60 years ago. So it was a good lesson for him in leadership, having to learn on his feet right away and being able to lead that team effectively. He also tells me what it was like actually living in San Francisco, coming from Alaska and then Montana. Living in San Francisco, one of the biggest cities in the country, can be a little bit overwhelming, and I'm sure there was some culture shock there, not to mention the cost of living and everything that goes into that. Gerald also tells me the story of when he got a hole-in-one during a golf tournament. That's something that 99.8% of us will never experience in our lives, and so to hear it from him, it was a really cool experience. We also talk about becoming a godfather. Gerald recently became a godfather and an uncle to his sister's baby. And so we talk about that and some of the changes that are going on in his life because of that, and how he's striving to be a better person and to be a role model for her as well. If you like what you hear on the podcast, share it with a friend, leave us a review, and make sure to subscribe so you get the newest episodes immediately. Without further ado, here's my conversation with my friend Gerald. Hope you enjoy. Hey, Gerald, man, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Logan, it's good to see and hear from you too, buddy.
What's going on today?
Not too much. Just my Sundays. Sunday today's for me is my Friday. Just going into work, hanging out with my new pup.
Nice. What are you doing nowadays?
So currently I'm living up in Whitefish, Montana. I've been here for a little over 2 years now, and I work for a restaurant conglomerate here in Whitefish and Columbia Falls. The ownership group owns 3 restaurants, and I'm general manager for one of them.
Awesome. So you're able to use some of that experience that you've had along the way and to put it into practice here.
Yeah. I've bounced around for the last, I guess, 10 years from a few cities, and then landed up here in Whitefish after I went to school at the University of Montana in Missoula, so kind of found my way home.
How did you get started in the restaurant industry? I don't think that's something that we've ever really talked about. You just kind of fell into it. At least that's been my kind of understanding of it. So talk me through that a little bit.
That's a good question, and it's funny that my first thought process goes back to growing up in Alaska, but yeah, you kind of hit it where I just kind of fell into it. And I guess these things happen where going through college, you take all these different classes, courses, and then I graduated with a finance degree, somehow ending up now in hospitality and food and beverage. It has some relation, but not directly correlated. But first job ever, Elks Lodge in Palmer, Alaska, washing dishes at 16 years old, and just kind of worked in every single position you could think of, from busser and then bartending through college, and worked through college doing that. And then first job out of college from Missoula was scoring a gig with Hilton in San Francisco.
That's awesome, man. What were you doing there?
They hired me to run the bar program for one of their on-site restaurants at the Hilton Union Square property. And then, the career kind of took a life of its own after that. Moved through into banquets, and it was a bit overwhelming at first. This property, the Hilton San Francisco Union Square, is 1,900 rooms plus, with 300,000 square feet of banquet space. It's known as the biggest hotel west of the Mississippi that's non-gaming, so basically anything outside of Vegas.
Wow, that's incredible. And you were basically, when you say running the bar program, does that mean that you were coming up with the menu? Does that mean you were working as kind of the mixologist with your bartenders? What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I was 25 years old, moving to San Francisco, and with just basically my experience from college, which is, minor at times looking back now, but yeah, running the bar program, doing training programs, creating menus with our culinary team and our front of house management team, and then most times during service, peak times between 5 and 8, you could say, I'd be on the floor, helping out, greeting guests,
Okay.
etc.
All
Yeah.
right. So you were 25 coming to this ginormous hotel property to run their bar program. I would imagine that a lot of your employees and a lot of people that you worked with were going to be older than you because you were fresh out of college. So how did you kind of handle that aspect of it, being the new kid on the block, literally? How are you able to work through all that?
I can't help but smile because that's a perfect question, and especially this property, being a unionized property, I had bartenders that had literally been there from when it was built, and I can't even make it up, for I think it was 60 years. The guy I think it was 70 something, 70, early 80s. And, you count, and but after it took him, this is the funniest part. It took almost a year being there for him literally to even have a conversation with me, because he'd been through so many managers. I mean, I couldn't even blame the guy after getting to know some of him and the teammates there, that, it's just they went through a whole slew of management teams. So it's like, for them, well, you'll be gone in 6 months. Why do I bother trying to create a relationship with you? Little did they know, I had no plans on leaving, anytime soon.
Right.
Fast forward, I was there for the better part of 4 years.
So what were some of those things that you did? Coming in, you're the new manager. You talked about some of that history where managers don't last that long. What were some of those like leadership skills that you brought to the table that maybe you learned in college or learned in your previous experiences?
I think a big one, and something that I still preach to this day and kind of hold myself to the same standard, is you got to lead by example. And when I say that, I can't just, it's all well and dandy to be able to lead by directing, your team. And I really do say, when I say team members, that's how I honestly, kind of believe in how you should be leading a team is, if I have a bartender that's in need of help, instead of just, getting down on the bartender or, busser or server, whatever the case may be, get in there, get your hands dirty by helping out, wash dishes. I'll wash dishes to this day if the dish pit is getting overrun. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're all in this together. And I think that's, once some of the team members saw that out of me, that's where you can really gain some respect, especially from long tenured employees.
Yeah, for sure. They want to know that you are going to walk the walk. You're not just going to bark orders at them. You're going to say, hey, I need to help you out too. What can I do to help you? And I think that's a great sign of a good leader, is asking what they can do to help out their team.
Right.
Because if they don't, then they're just assuming that the team has a handle on everything. And then when things go wrong, that's when the problems all start. So if you're able to kind of cut that off and be proactive about it, it goes a lot further.
Dude, 100%. Absolutely. It's being present, just being visible, to the guests and the team members. I've worked in, like I said, in this industry for long enough now that I've seen management team members sit in the office and, hide, more or less, where that doesn't do anybody any good.
As you were working there in San Francisco, you said you worked there for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Besides the leadership qualities, what was it like just living in San Francisco? I mean, you grew up in a small town in Alaska. You went to school in Montana, which is sparsely populated compared to San Francisco. Now you're in the city. What was that like? Was it culture shock or what?
Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's the professional shock hit right away. And then along with that, the culture shock of just being in this monstrous city where, people make, now it's easy to make fun of people bitching and moaning about the traffic in Wasilla, Alaska. You know what I mean? And it's funny now to, think that it's a different world. It's a different world. Such a beautiful place though. I'll never trade that time for anything. I would have probably stayed longer had it not been so expensive, to be honest with you.
I was going to ask about that. Were you basically living in a closet? You know, we hear all these stories of how expensive rent is in San Francisco, 5 people living in a 1-bedroom or a no-bedroom apartment. So what were you
with curtains in the living room, dividing rooms and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't me, but I knew some of those people. We had you'll love this. We had and eventually, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but my sister Victoria and her husband Justin lived there at the same time, and it worked out perfectly. The 3 of us got a little 2-bedroom apartment right up Twin Peaks from downtown, and we had a little 800 square foot apartment. It was nice, newly renovated, $3,600 a month. Yes, sir.
What?
Can't make it up.
Oh my God. That's
800 square feet.
Ooh.
One bath. We shared a bath.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I guess I'm glad I live in middle America now, because that's like 3 mortgage payments for me.
Same kind of deal. Like, it's funny being back here now in Montana and people are complaining about rent prices increasing. I'm so happy to be back.
Well, and you have family in Montana, right? That's where your parents are from.
Yep. So they're from this area, and then Victoria. I just mentioned Victoria and Justin, my sister and brother-in-law. They moved back to Missoula, and they just had a little baby niece this last November. So it's nice to be closer to them too.
That's awesome, man. Uncle Gerald in the house.
Uncle Gerald, Uncle G.
Are you the fun uncle, or is Jordan the fun uncle?
I gotta tell you, I'm the fun uncle. They named me Godfather recently, which is a big deal to me.
Congratulations. Anyway. That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Appreciate it.
Very cool.
Yeah, and it's nice to start seeing. She's growing like a weed, dude. 8 months. She's just turned 8 months, and she's already crawling and running her mouth.
Just like her uncle.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool. And Jordan and his wife are still in Montana. Is that right? So your whole family's there.
Yep, my brother Jordan and his wife Adrian, they've been together about 10 years. They're out in Billings, so quite a bit east from here. But yeah, we still get together when we can, probably a few times a year. Awesome. Currently, my dad's down in Tucson. I'm not sure if you knew that. He sold his place up here and went for warmer weather. So he bought a new place in the last 6 months down in Tucson, Arizona.
Okay, so that's cool.
Yeah, he's loving life. I haven't had a chance to get down and visit him yet, but it's on the card for sure.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to hear JJ's doing well.
Yeah.
Gerald, you mentioned going to school in Montana. You told me this story about something that happened to you that 99.5% of us are never, ever going to experience. And that was getting a hole-in-one during a golf tournament. Like, not just you playing around with your buddies, but you were actually like playing for real. What was that like for you? I can't even imagine what that experience could be like.
And honestly, it's a bit weird to even talk about or tell a story, because it feels kind of like an urban legend at this point. We've been, I guess, 12 years ago this summer. Yeah, 12 years ago, I was 20 years old. Small town where my mom grew up in just north of Great Falls called Fort Benton. This course that I played growing up. It's this little 9-hole track right on the Missouri River. Beautiful canyon. It's a gorgeous course. But it's this fundraiser it's closer to, so this is another fun part. It's closer to Bozeman, which is Montana State, than it is to Missoula, where I went to school. I'm a grad. University of Montana, the Grizzlies. So it was a fundraiser for the Bobcats, but since it's my mom's hometown, we'd always go play with it, and we have some family members that are Bobcats from MSU, and so we teamed up. My uncle, 2 of my uncles, my dad, and myself, our foursome squad. It's supposed to be a fun little scramble tournament, nothing serious. My dad and I wear our Grizz gear every single year too. First hole, so it's a shotgun start. So anybody that doesn't know, shotgun start means everybody tees off at the same time on different holes instead of everybody going off of hole 1. Mm-hmm. And our assigned hole is hole 4 on Signal Point, which is a par 3. That par 3 just so happened to be assigned for this whole prize that we didn't even know about at the time. And this is where I think, a lot of the story, I leave out some details, but I'm the anchor, so the fourth player to swing because it's a scramble. So you all play from the same shot. Basically, it's like you take the best shot of everybody and you go from there. All my uncles tee off. Nobody hits the green. I hit. It looks good. Right over this beautiful pond and this big oak tree. Lands, and then you kind of lose sight of it because this tree's in the way. Next thing you know, there's this spotter sitting in a lawn chair by the green. This older gal, and she starts running towards the green, screaming and waving her arms. It's in the hole! It's in the hole! And there must have been 20 people on the tee box because they have multiple teams, like in order.
Mm-hmm.
And it is still, like I said, it's like it doesn't even feel real. Not even until the next hole. So of course, my family and I we're going crazy. Just for the sheer fact of it being such a cool golf accomplishment. We get to the next tee box, and this guy rolls up, the director of the tournament, and says, and he was white in the face, and he just came up and shook my hand. He said, "Congratulations, you just won the whole prize for a brand new truck," which happened to be this gorgeous Ford F-150 Harley Davidson edition that they had parked at the pro shop. And you would have thought my dad had seen a ghost too. And it was just one of those, I don't know. It's just like I said, looking back, it's one of those moments that I'll never forget for sure. I'm sure my family won't. I know they still tell the story because every single time they have to call me up and they want to hear it from me, Pretty wild though, man.
So was it, I've always heard about this, if you get a hole-in-one, you have to buy drinks for everyone, not just on your team, but everyone who's playing in the tournament? Well, I guess you couldn't because you were 20 years old, so how did that all work?
There you go, you just got it. Yeah, so all these Montana State Bobcats that are, at this point, more pissed off than anything that a Grizz got a hole-in-one and won this truck, this 20-year-old kid. I can't buy him even a beer at the pro shop because I'm only 20 years old. However, my dad did front the bill, and he made sure we took care of it.
That's cool. He just put it on your tab, right?
Yeah, he put it on my tab.
That's a really cool story, and I know that's something that I will never. I'm just happy to not lose my ball if I play golf, so I can't even imagine what a hole-in-one would be like. That's just incredible.
Also, not to lose your ball, that's a great goal, so don't sell yourself short.
I'm working my way up.
Nice. We'll have to play next time we see each other in person.
That's a deal. Well, you're not too far now. I mean, you're only one time zone away. That's
right.
a doable drive.
I know. I got to get my way over there.
Same over here, man. You mentioned earlier, today's your Friday. What are your plans for your days off? How do you spend your time when you're not at work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So some of the beauty of Whitefish, Montana, anybody that's not familiar, is it's really this kind of mountain town, beautiful lake, 5 minutes from downtown. Small little town just north of Kalispell, about 45 minutes to the border of Canada. It's kind of a tourist destination, especially because Glacier National Park's less than an hour away. A lot of beautiful scenery. Tomorrow, I will be spending my day probably on the paddleboard with my little puppy Juno, who I've had for a little over 3 months, and then maybe play around a golf with the boys in the afternoon.
Hey, that sounds pretty good. You can't beat that.
No, it's a pretty magical place. Have you ever been up here, Logan?
No, I've never been to Montana. Well, I've driven through Montana, but I haven't spent any significant time there. No.
You and Sarah would fall in love with Whitefish. I'm telling you, and I should actually choose my words carefully because I don't want too many. Depending how many people this podcast reaches, it's like one of those things that all the locals tell. No, this place sucks. Don't come here. Stay away. But no, man, you'd love this place. It's gorgeous lake, beautiful mountain, and Glacier National Park is one of those places that is truly magical.
I bet. Yeah, it's on my list for sure. I want to take a road trip. Maybe if anybody is listening out there and wants to sponsor a Domesticated Dude podcast road trip, Whitefish would definitely be on my list. And
come on out. I'll show you a good time.
I know you will. I know you will. I mean, that's your job. You're in hospitality, right? You have to show a good time.
That's right.
Your niece is 8 months old. What are some things that you're learning? Are you learning anything from her being an uncle and caring for this new life in the world? What are some of those things that you are learning from her?
Well, that's a great question. I've been referring to myself as I'm a single dad now of a puppy, but yeah, my little niece, goddaughter Isla, she definitely makes me want to be a better person. Taking care of myself, so to make sure that I'm going to be around as long as possible for her. And like I said, it's just nice to be able to be close. Also, I'm not sure how deep you want to get into all this, this world pandemic stuff, but it was tough for three months there not to be able to see her either, because I was able to see her over the holidays right when she was born. She, barely fit in my arms. And then, all of a sudden we were on a standstill and I couldn't go visit her. It was pretty tough. Yeah, we could FaceTime and do that jazz, but it's not the same. That.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's those are the big ones. All of a sudden it's, you have another human life that, at some point may rely on you. You want to make sure that you're doing the right things for yourself and for her and for my family, just in general. And it kind of makes me just feel like I need to be a better person. Not that I really have any outlandish faults. Otherwise, maybe somebody might say I do, but it's all, you can always be a better person.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one thing that I've learned being with Sarah is she brings out the best in me. It's always there in you. Sometimes you need that inspiration to bring it more to the forefront than it was before.
Totally agree.
I think it's just something where, a lot of people say, well, if you're changing for your significant other, you shouldn't be in that relationship. Well, you're not necessarily changing. You're evolving and you're becoming even better than you were before. And, you're not really sacrificing anything.
And, as the saying goes, change isn't always bad.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're stuck in a rut or something, you need kind of a quick change or a Band-Aid that needs to get ripped off or something like that we've talked about on this podcast before. If there's things in your life that aren't helping you, it's time to get rid of them.
Yeah, I completely agree and can relate.
What are some of the things that you've learned kind of, in your travels and in different stages of your life? Are there any lessons that stick out to you?
Oh boy. How much time do we have on this podcast? I just think that, at the end of the day, this is, I'll break it down to be fairly simple. The true things that are important are, family and friends. And I'm going to probably get a little emotional here. Just, I lost my mom about, a little over 4 years ago. And she was such a special person that's all she cared about. She just, at the end of the day, it was about family. It was about, living life to the fullest. I just want to take that to heart and, try to, like I said, try to improve on myself every single day. And, I'm still a single guy, but I'm kind of hoping that there's that special person out there for me that, I can, take her legacy and keep teaching that and, hopefully pass that on to generations to come.
Yeah, man, for sure. I think you're doing a good job already. I mean, that's something that I've always seen in you. You always go 100% on things. And, that you said that it was something that you picked up from your mom and your dad too. He's the same way.
Absolutely.
Get the most out of life and make sure you're there for the people who care about you. And, ever since we started hanging out back in high school, man, your parents have always been very supportive of everything and just always big smiles on their faces whenever we would come over, no matter how much pain in the asses we were, I'm sure. But, that when you go over to Gerald's house, Lisa and JJ are going to be there smiling, hugging. And
I think that's why you and I have been, gotten along. We were talking about Nathan and how we were the the trifecta back in the day because, all of our folks are, all just about, they just have great characteristics. And, I think that's where our parents kind of saw that in each other. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, the three of us are together. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's crazy how that works. when you find people who are on the same level as you on a lot of different aspects, everything just clicks, and it's just harmony. It's kind of funny. I was looking at the picture from my graduation with you and Nathan, and it's crazy how far we've come in those 15 years. Sure. And when I sit back and think about 15 years ago, that was the summer before my freshman year of college. It absolutely blows my mind. I sometimes I still feel like a kid. I still feel like a high schooler trying to figure my shit out. At a certain point, we're all still trying to figure our shit out, but we're getting better at it, and we're learning a lot, and knowing what's important, I think, is a good base for that.
That's right, man. Well, it seems like you're doing a great job too. And I think, what was the last time I saw you? I saw you in
Post Falls,
Spokane.
Yeah,
a couple of years back, and it just seemed like I remember leaving you that night, and just I felt happy that it seemed like you were doing really well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was awesome being able to hang out for a night. It was one night with our friends in Post Falls, Idaho.
That's right, Post Falls. That's right.
That's a crazy story too. We'll save that one for another podcast. But just being able to see you and to hang out, like it felt like we were right back where we started.
That's how I think you're. You really know you have a true friendship when it had been 10 years probably since we'd even seen each other. Because as soon as I moved to Montana, my folks moved. That was their kind of excuse to move back from Alaska to come back down to Montana, and then I really hadn't had a chance to go up and visit until my 10-year high school reunion.
Yeah, I was back home for Christmas break, and you were back home for Christmas break, and my parents were gone, so I was like, well, shit, we're staying at the house.
That's right.
Man, but yeah, so yeah, 10 years. It was 2018 when we were in Idaho. Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, after all that time, we sat down, and you would have thought we saw each other just the day before.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's a feeling that you can't replace. You can't fake that.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, man, you go for it.
Domesticated dude.
Yes, sir.
Give me the download. I'm sure, like I said, I feel bad. I've only listened to the one podcast with Nathan. I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to some more, but I don't want to sound like a broken record if you've already kind of gone over everything. But what was the inspiration behind this? Is it a hobby for you? I know you're a communications guru, but give me the down low.
Well, this has been in the making for probably 4 years at this point, at least. It's been a long time, but I would always joke about how domesticated I was, and maybe that's kind of some sarcasm, but I always had this idea in my head for the domesticated dude, and initially it would be like a blog with life lessons. Hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm going through right now. But then, I get busy, don't have time to devote to it and whatever. Well, now that podcasting has become so accessible to everybody, I figured, well, shit, I need to spend more time with my friends, especially people like you who, we grew up together in high school and spent a lot of time together, and now we're off kind of doing our own things. And so experiences like this don't happen very often. Well, if there's an excuse to get together, talk about some stuff, go deep on some things, let's do it. And so I got all my equipment like in January, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then the pandemic hit, and it was kind of like, okay, if you don't do this now, it's never going to happen.
What better time for you to do it? You can't leave the house.
Yeah, exactly. I can't leave the house. My friends can't leave their houses. So let's find some time to sit down, spend an hour together. But it's just a way for me, because I know, I have these conversations with my friends. I know that they've been through stuff that other people have too. And so to let them know, hey, you're not alone in this, and here's what I've learned out of that journey, I think there's value there. And it's been proven that there is, because people are tuning in and listening, and I've been hearing a lot of good feedback. I just think if there's value there, if there's something that somebody can share, let's do it.
That's awesome. I love it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Even for me, it's great to go back and just listen to what everybody's up to now.
I guess pie in the sky ultimate goal is that this gets picked up by somebody and it's the full-time gig, but I know that's not realistic at the moment. For now, it's just a hobby.
You're
But...
you're the next Joe Rogan. I feel it.
Oh man.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm a part of the fan club. Like I said, as soon as that new the new swag comes in, I'm gonna order some.
That's a deal, man. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for being supportive. I really appreciate it. So, hey, are you playing much poker anymore?
That's funny you asked. That's the first thing when you mentioned like what kind of topics we could talk about. Ultimately, I went back to that summer where we were upstairs in your folks' place and played an unimaginable amount of hours of cards and just shuffled money around to each other. And we're playing for $20, and we thought it was the end of the world if you lost $20 at the time. I haven't played as much as I'd like to. I've got this new friend group here that plays every Monday that I might play tomorrow night. And but no, I haven't. How about yourself?
I've been playing a little bit. A few of my friends here do play, so we were playing maybe once a month or so before everything went crazy. But then I figured out a way to set up a private group on one of the online poker platforms and just play in a tournament there. Now it's a little bit different. There's no cash game or anything like that, but it worked.
That's a pretty good setup.
Yeah, it worked out okay. Nathan got on for a little bit. Reed was playing with us. So it was just a way to kind of, and then we get on a Skype chat and we'd all be like in the same room together pretty much. But yeah, man, I keep thinking about the way that we used to play cards, and that was all we did. And I guess, looking back, it kept us out of a lot of trouble.
Sure.
And I mean, we were hanging out either at your house, my house, Tim's house. Like, we found places to play cards.
Yeah, we definitely had some good times.
You can't ask for much more than that, hanging out with your buddies, playing cards, talking crap to each other. And
oh man.
Yeah. You mentioned just shoveling money back and forth. You'd win one night, I'd win one night. Well, yep. I didn't win a lot of nights, but what's $20-$40 to hang out with your buds and do that,
Right, and that's like you said, we stayed out of trouble now looking back.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Probably for another podcast too that I'm not sure if Nathan brought up, but old school gaming parties we did at the Curtis household.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Those are some epic times looking back.
We would that's when you had to bring in your own TV or your own Xbox. I didn't even have an Xbox back then, but I bought a controller and I painted it. It was all customized and everything. Oh my goodness. Yeah, man. Those LAN parties were the best times. I'll never forget the one where we were playing Capture the Flag. We were playing this game called Halo, which is this first-person shooter game. And we would always break up into teams. Well, I was always the worst player on every team. I sucked so bad at that game. And I just got so excited one time that I actually captured the flag and I was like, hey guys, I got the flag. And they're like, all right, kill Logan. Shit.
You're not supposed to tell everybody.
Yeah, you're
in the same room.
You're just supposed to sneak out of there and run as fast as you can.
Yeah, man. But that's what's I love about being able to catch up with you and some of the others is, boy, we had some good times back in the day.
Yeah, we did. I mean, that's what it was all about, was finding people that you could have these experiences with that will never leave us. Those times are always going to be there to look back on.
Yeah, the memory is so fun and real. I feel like you could put me in that room right now and I could remember the feelings and the conversations that we had. 16 dudes in that one room for hours on end. Poor Cheryl Curtis is bringing us pizzas and snacks and stuff because she's such a sweetheart.
Oh man, those are some really good times. And I mean, yeah, you look at what high school kids could do back then, especially growing up in Alaska. Piling in a room and playing video games is like the least harmful activity that you could do,
especially in the winter time when you guys have already talked about, but like the sun's down by the time you're coming out of school on a Friday afternoon. What are you gonna do? You can't go outside and play or anything. You're skiing, you can't go skiing. You have to hang out inside and be with the people that mean the most to you.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I think especially now with the emergence of technology and all this other crap, all these other distractions that we have, being able to kind of recreate that, if you will, like recreate finding time to spend with those people, where you're not plugged into a computer, you're not plugged into a phone, you're just able to enjoy each other's company. I think that's really important, especially as we keep moving forward through all this stuff. We're realizing how important that is, especially when we weren't able to be around those people.
Yeah, 100%. That having the daily interactions with people, even strangers on the street, is completely changed currently. Where it's just having this right now with the TV off and not looking at Instagram or whatever the case may be. Like, this hour for you and me is probably the highlight of my week, honestly. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
catching up with you and being disconnected, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now you just got, and then like I said, you just got to come up here. We'll go camping out at Hungry Horse Reservoir, and there's no cell service anyway.
Perfect. I could use the disconnection like that.
Yeah,
I would love that. Well, hey man, thanks for spending some time with me today. Is there anything else top of your mind that you think we should talk about today before we get back to work?
Oh, like I said, I think I could spend all day, all afternoon with you here, but we can save it for another time. More stories to come, I guess. How's that sound?
That sounds great, man. Well, hey, Gerald, thanks again, man. It was great catching up with you. Have fun today and enjoy the weekend.
Hey, appreciate it, dude. And no pun intended, I guess, for the domesticated dude, but it really means a lot that you invited me on here. And like I said, anytime you're looking for a guest, I'd be happy to jump on with you, buddy.
That means a lot, man. I will be taking you up on that.
Awesome.
All right, dude. Well, hey, have a good shift and enjoy the water tomorrow.
Thanks, man. You take care.
All right, you too.